Group up as 4. Use your B lane supremacy. You've got plenty of U2. You can get a smoke short, smoke long. You can go molly, pillar. Oh,
I haven't seen that strategy before.
oh no.
Yeah, my predictions are cooked. What the hell is this event? PGL Astana, like the other PGL events this year, has had such an insane group stage where somehow NIP win their opening game, Audic have somehow won multiple games, and also, the most important thing, both Gamer Legion and M80 are the 203 teams. Man, I really thought that Gamer Legion was going to have a good event here after missing out on the major, and they had a pretty solid first match against Spirit where, yes, they lose, but they lost both maps 11-13. I would say that that's a win in most scenarios, how you take the third best team in the world currently to 24 rounds on each map. But then it goes downhill from there, and it culminates in an 0-2 loss against Ho2, where you have a guy who's been on the team for only 3 weeks and has not been on a team in 9 months life game you on Mirage, specifically where Duke Fasura goes 14-7 on CT side, which is baffling. For Gamer Legion, I thought that PR looked pretty good throughout this whole event, but besides that, nobody else really showed, and it's very disappointing. Because of my North American bias, I think M80 going 0-3 pisses me off a lot more than Gamer Legion going 0-3. You have a somewhat pretty good series out of Swisher, where Swisher has just not really played well for a while on M80. Not to really knock him, because I love Swisher a lot, but the team around Swisher this event was not really that good. They have a very sort of default map pool, I would call it, where a lot of the teams that they play in international competition are going to be better at them on those maps. So you either need to implement a map that is not as popular, take a train, for example, into the map pool, or become very almost innovative in your calling on these more basic, puggy maps, you know, like Inferno, like Ancient, like Mirage, like Dust 2. I believe it was Sin who said after they got eliminated, don't worry, we'll be fine for the major. And I really, really hope you are. I hope you're not lying. If M80 doesn't make it through, especially the first stage of the major, and at least 1 to 2 wins in the second stage, I feel like a roster move has to be in place. Not much to say for Spirit and the Mongols. Both go 3-0 in pretty dominant fashion. Yeah, this was a pretty spot-on prediction where Hyped of Big just pretty much overperformed in their one win against Aurora and then fell back down to earth for the next 3 matches they had after that. There isn't too much to really talk about with Ping. It was announced after I made my prediction video that their coach would be standing in for DGT for a couple games. They go 1-1 in those games, but then just end up having pretty brutal back-to-back losses against fellow South American competition in Audic and MIBR. For being the lowest rated team, I thought Ho2 actually looked pretty good. Sure, their opener against Pain was a bit of a disaster, But being able to take a map off Aurora and then being able to beat Gamer Legion 2-0 with Duke Fasura dropping that 1.40 rating, I thought was very impressive. Sure, they end up losing their 1-2 game and end up getting eliminated by Ninjas in Pajamas, but still, I gotta give them props. I thought they were not really going to be that good. Then they end up winning a game and taking a map off of a top 10 team. People thought I was crazy. People were screaming from the rooftops to have me locked up in an insane asylum for having Furia make the playoffs of this event. And guess what? I was right. The crazy person was right. They didn't have the hardest path to get to the playoffs, but they still did it. Where, sure, they lose to Mongols in the opener, but they still take a map off of Mongols, so I think that's still a win. Then they beat Gamer Legion, who sure, bomb out. And then they get the luck of the draw with having two straight matchups that they win against other South American competition, MIBR and ODIC, which 9 times out of 10, I would say that Furia needs to be winning both of those games. A little bit scary that they ended up losing a map to MIBR, but even then, hey, they made the playoffs. People thought I was crazy, but I was correct in this, so I will gladly take it. Looking back at my prediction, the opposite of what I said happened between Gamer Legion and Astralis. I said in my prediction video that Gamer Legion would make the playoffs and Astralis would bomb out. And well, Astralis has gone 3-1 through the group stage, beating ODIC, Ping, and an impressive win against Virtus Pro to get there. And I have to give credit where credit is due, mainly to Hooksy. I didn't think the team would be ready mentally just yet. I thought they were going to need a little bit more time before we saw some decent results. And well, hey, they've secured at least a top 8 finish at a PGL event. So maybe these guys are just good at PGL events and nothing else. Navi go 3-1 with a win against M80 and another against Big, then losing to the Mongols and then beating Aurora in the 2-1 matchup to go through and qualify for the playoffs 3-1. There's not really much to say, in my opinion, about Navi, besides the fact that they've looked pretty solid as a team throughout this event, and let's just hope that they can keep that in form for playoffs. For the 2-2 matchups, I'm just going to be talking about both teams to save some time. NIP is able to have a bit of a nice run to make it to the playoffs by beating G2. And for NIP, I did have it in the thumbnail of the original prediction video, so I'll say that counts. Meanwhile, G2, they had Taz, their coach, stand in, which my prediction video was already completely done when that was announced, so I didn't want to go back and re-edit through a segment of that video, but I would have thought something like this would have happened, where they would get eliminated with their coach standing in. Aurora is able to beat ODIC to qualify for the playoffs in pretty dominant fashion with good performances from both Wicadia and Zentaros. Not really much to say about Aurora. ODIC, though, I will say that they ended up doing a lot better than I thought they were going to. They were I believe, the second lowest rated team going into this event, and they were able to get some pretty solid wins throughout this tournament, so props to them. With this final matchup, one of my predictions looks very good, while the other looks very bad. I ended up calling that Virtus Pro would go out of this event 2-3. I just really didn't like a lot of the stuff that they've been doing in the past couple of events that they've attended, so that was sort of my reasoning. And as for MIBR, they end up getting this good win against Virtus Pro, and then they got another win against Ping, and then their first win against G2. So they have a playoff bid, and with that being said, let's talk about these playoffs. Starting at the bottom of the bracket, going to the top here with Spirit versus NIP. NIP's had a very good run to these playoffs, but Spirit is just way too dominant, and they're going to get a pretty decisive victory to go to the semifinals. Then moving on to Furia versus MIBR. Furia should be able to take this game pretty easily. Furia is the best South American team. Next is probably the hardest game to predict, Navi versus Astralis, just because both teams have actually looked very good, and you can't really point out many flaws. I think besides maybe Astralis, Stone, and Yabi, one of the two likes to fall off in a series or two here and there, and that's been consistent throughout this event. So that's why I'm going to take Navi to go to the semifinals. And then the last quarterfinal matchup, Mongols versus Aurora. Aurora has not won a playoff game in 2025. I said that in the prediction video, so I'm going to have the Mongols take that one. Then it would be Mongols versus Navi for a spot in the grand final. I will say that the Mongols beat Navi in that scenario. And then Spirit is going to dominate Furia. So we'll end up having a Mongols versus Spirit grand final. It'll be a best of 5. So I think Spirit is going to be able to win that series 3-1. I think Mongols are able to pick up a map there. But besides that, Spirit, I mean, like I've been saying, Spirit is the best team at this event, and they will be winning. PGL Astana.